Hello, and thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker with affordable homes and apartments. And I'm licensed to preach and I'm ordained as a minister. And I have my master's degree in sacred theology and divinity. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. Today I'd like to talk to you on a continued basis of my book, Tenants' Rights versus Slumlords, Win in Housing Court. Tenants' Rights versus Slumlords, Win in Housing Court. And today we're going to talk to you about forming a tenants association. Okay, and that's going to be found in chapter number, I believe I don't know if I have chapters in this book or not, but it's found on page 39. Okay, now previously we talked about code violations and what have you. Okay, and today we're going to talk to you about forming a tenants association as promised. Now, this book is available on lulu.com. That's lulu.com. So if you'd like to get a copy of it, just holler at a sister and I'll get you a copy as soon as possible. Okay? Now, what are some of the reasons why you would form a tenants association? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Okay, tenants associations are formed for the most part because more than likely you're not getting any response from your landlord. You've been trying to contact your landlord to no avail, and your landlord has failed to respond. If he or she has responded, then more than likely he or she has failed to take any action, such as correcting the violations, which means fixing your apartment and making it habitable, which means making it livable. Okay. Now, the tenants association, there's strength in numbers, basically. So when you form a tenants association, you're forming a tennis association so that you can gain strength and you can get something done. A lot of times, if one person or two people are fighting and you're trying to get results done in the entire building, you don't have as much strength as you're going to need. You may be able to get results for your apartment, or maybe not. Or you may be dragged through the legal system. In other words, you may have to go back and forth to court. But if there's strength in numbers, you will get attention from uh, those who you need attention from. Now, the landlord is legally cannot interfere with your desire or your effort to form a tenants association. Now, I may have talked briefly on forming a tenants association before, and just some of the things, but today we're going to talk in depth about forming a tenants association. The landlord cannot harass you. He cannot penalize you or punish you. By law, that is illegal. Okay, and if he does, then again, like I mentioned before about an HP action, you can take your landlord to court, even individually. Now, more than likely, you're going to need at least 1/3 of the tenants to sign the petition. Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Now, there is new hope for tenants in rundown buildings. As a tenant organizer myself, which is what I did, and I became a 7A administrator, which is actually a court-appointed building manager. I organize tenants of privately owned buildings, encourage tenants to work together in strength and unity, so that the tenants can get some things done, like upgrading the condition of your building and bringing it back to code compliance. Everybody deserves a decent place to live. My question to the landlord would be, would you live in such a development? And I would always refer back to that movie. I don't know if you saw it. It was with Joe Pesci. I can't remember the name of it right now, but his father had gave him a building and a multi-unit building, a tenement is what we used to call it. And his father's philosophy was don't do anything for the tenants, just collect the rent. If they don't pay the rent, put them out, which is what a lot of landlords do today. Okay, um, but when Joe Pesci went to court, the landlord had sentenced him to live in one of the units in which he owned the building. He was not allowed to fix his unit unless he fixed the other apartments first. And if he did not fix the other units, well, I think he had 30 days, then he would go to jail. After Joe Pesci got to know the tenants, and he realized that these tenants are people too, they're human beings. And then he confronted his father. His father said, I wouldn't have given you this building if I'd have known you was going to do this. He said, you're just supposed to collect the rent and don't do anything for the tenants. And Joe Pesci said, Dad, these, people are tenants. The tenants are people. They're human beings. And in essence, he developed a heart for the tenants and he got the building back up to code compliance. And it was an interesting movie that I watched. I can't remember. But before a building can be brought back up to code compliance, the tenants must and should be organized. Okay? A step to get organized involves gaining the tenant's trust over a period of time. When you can't depend on the landlord, then who, in fact, can you really depend on? Nobody, really. What are you as a tenant going to do for me? You don't own the building. So we have to, in fact, instill trust in the other tenants and let them know, yes, I have help from, so and so, or, I researched the matter or what have you. And if we organize, then we can take the landlord to court, take over the management of our own building, and then purchase the building as a city-owned a tenant-owned low-income co-op, and then bring the building back up to code compliance, and then purchase the building as a tenant-owned low-income co-op. Okay, so now the building will be tenant-owned, but it will be with the help of the city. Okay, one issue that should be addressed among other issues during your organizational process is to tell each tenant that they must learn the importance of paying the rent. Okay, just because you stop paying the rent to the landlord, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay rent at all. You still got to pay rent. Collectively, the rent is used to fix the building up. That's how the building gets fixed, through the rent. That's what's supposed to happen. But a lot of landlords don't do that. They take the rent and then they do other things with it. Okay? The building cannot be brought up to code compliance without the rent money. So it's of the utmost importance that you realize that you must pay rent. Um, you know, just because you're not paying it today doesn't mean you can go spend it and buy a television, because eventually you're going to have to pay it. If you don't pay the rent, even once you become organized as a tenants association, then you still can be evicted. Okay? Uh, the building cannot be brought up to code compliance without the rent money. Okay? Landlords cannot make repairs unless he collects the rent. But if he collects the rent and still doesn't make repairs, then you would need to form a tenants association. Okay? Now, I approached the tenants of rundown buildings in New York when they were run down before they became investment properties. At that time, they were eyesores. Okay? And several apartments were vacant of some of these buildings, and these buildings were truly run down. You can look at the outside of the building and tell they were run down. You go into the lobby, and the door was hanging off, one hinge was off, and it was dark in the lobby. And this is an invitation to drug dealers. They come in and they take over the development. They intimidate and threaten the tenants because now the tenants don't have any backbone unless you organize and form a tenants association. In the case where you see where buildings become run down, what had happened was several apartments become vacant, and when the certain areas, even a section of town, will become vacant, but you still have tenants living in the building. But what would happen is garbage would be piled up in the hallways. The lobby doors were not self-locking; they were left open. Okay, fire escapes were broken or had none. Okay, the apartments, everything was just a mess. Mailboxes were not safe anymore. Okay, and some cities don't have the manpower to actively manage each and every building that is in the city. That's why you organize a tenants association. Okay, and ultimately what happens is the building ends up getting foreclosed and it goes to another owner. It's just get the building. I want my mortgage money. If you don't have a mortgage on it, your taxes are going to be due. If you don't pay your taxes, then you'll face tax foreclosure. Okay. Now, because the building is suffering from tremendous, vagrancy or non-habitability at this, it's hard to basically Oh, okay. It was hard to basically, it was hard to gain the tenants' trust. I did gain their trust when we went to court and they realized, hey, she's able to get some action done. They wasn't paying any rent until they realized that things were going to actually get done. So the first thing you need to do is to find out where you're going to have the meeting, okay? And that's going to be an important step because you have to realize that the majority of the building at this point is pretty much run down. You don't necessarily want nobody in your apartment because you don't know whether the person that's coming into your apartment for the meeting is an actual tenant or not. And you don't want to trust that because, you could end up getting robbed. So you have to find some place, which doesn't even have to be in the building if it's not that safe. If you feel that you can meet out in the park or across the street or at your local library or somewhere like that, somewhere you have to meet. Okay? You can be at City Hall. You can meet in the lobby of City Hall. Okay? Always remember, however, to take pictures. Okay? And remember, at least 1/3 of the tenants have to unite and sign the petition in order to be able to fight in court against the landlord. Okay? Uh, Now, at the meeting, this is where you nominate tenant association heads. Okay? Now, I am a 7A administrator. I still am. So I didn't need to be part of the tenants association, and also because I didn't live there. However, I could be nominated as a tenant association head. But the object of forming a tenants association is the tenant. That's the object of the game, the tenants. The tenants need to be actively involved. And what I do now is when I go and I help you as a tenant association or your building is run down and you're getting no response from the landlord, I show you as a tenants association how to organize your own building. Now, what I do as a real estate broker, I rent the apartments out and I collect my fee. And I counsel you and I show you how to, manage your own building. I could manage the property as a 7A administrator, but I still would, want and require that the tenants be organized because you have to understand the importance of paying rent. Okay. Now, at the tenants association, you will also select. So everybody's going to be really a volunteer at this point. Okay, nobody's going to be on the payroll. Everybody's fighting for the same thing, and that's to get your building up to code compliance, get the repairs done so that you can sleep at night. Sleep peacefully at night. Okay, now you need to sign people up. You should sign them up based on their experience. Okay, there's a course that I took through the in New York City. It was the Housing Preservation and Development, and they actually had it was a 7 or 8 week course, and I got a certificate. And after I took the course and I passed it, I was eligible now to manage buildings as a 7A administrator. I was in fact a 7A administrator. So I could manage the buildings of these rundown, I could manage the buildings. I could manage a number of buildings. I didn't just have to manage one. But at that time, the percentage of collected fee that I would get as a management would be very small. Okay, and a lot of 7A administrators failed to, don't put your name on anything because now they're going to come after you. Bill collectors are going to come after you personally. See, when you're not the actual person who is in debt, so you would have to make sure that you sign the documents as a 7A administrator, okay, and not as the owner because you will now be hunted down, okay. Now the city at its discretion, okay. Now the volunteers of the tenants association will consist of the president. I would also say vice president, secretary, assistant secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer. Okay. Now the city, at its discretion, can sell the building to the tenants association through what is called a purchase money mortgage. So then what you do is you go to the city hall and you try to get to speak to the mayor. Okay, because the mayor is the one that can enforce this. Other people probably won't know what you're talking about. But you say that, look, we are organized as a tenants association or we are organizing and we would like to purchase our building through a purchase money mortgage. But this is usually after the landlord has been removed legally. So that means that you have to have went to court and the judge would have had to have appointed a 7A administrator, and at that point he will remove the landlord from active management of the building that he or she owns. Okay, when the landlord completely abandons the property, it now belongs to the city. So therefore, the tenants can petition the city to purchase the building, even before you even go through all of the, bringing the building up to code compliance and whatnot. You can purchase it right then and there. Okay? But within 2 years, after the landlord has been removed from active management of the building, he has up to 2 years to come back and reclaim his property, regain active management of his own building, even after a foreclosure proceeding has begun. If the landlord does not come back within 2 years, the property then goes in rent. That means that the foreclosure proceeding will begin. Okay? Now, when buildings and neighborhoods become abandoned, crime rate increases. Buildings deteriorate, banks, stores, and merchants close up and move out of the neighborhoods, and drug dealers move in. And I'm talking about my book, Tenants Association versus Tenants' Rights versus Slum Laws Win in Housing Court. Okay, and it's available on Lulu.com. Now, the reason, of course, we know the reasons why you would want to form a tenants association. And the basic thing is because the landlord's not fixing anything. Okay? And so, now it's time for the tenants now to take action and get things done themselves. Now, we're still talking about a tenants association, but one of the things involving a tenants association is now you're going on a rent strike. Okay, what is a rent strike? A rent strike is the last alternative to obtaining common strategies. If the problem really seems unbearable and you have tried endlessly to get results from the landlord to no avail, then the tenants can initiate a rent strike. However, once you begin to organize as a tenants association, you in fact really will be going on a rent strike because now you do not pay the landlord any money at all. Because the landlord is simply going to take that money like he's been doing and put it in his pocket and go on vacation. Okay? Uh, Now, if you need to go on a rent strike, this should be the last resort, but it doesn't have to be. Okay? Efforts to collect rents from tenants can be much more difficult than it seems, especially after they have not been paying it to the landlord for the last several months. They're used to not paying any rent. They don't see any results being taking place. But if you do get organized and go on a rent strike, let the housing department or the buildings department know so that they can dictate to the other tenants about their legal rights to go on a rent strike and the importance of paying their rent. That's why the city has to become involved. You're not doing this on your own, and you're not alone in this effort. Okay, and I know I'm not going to be able to talk about all this in this particular segment. So we will continue this forming a tenants association and the rules and regulations of a tenants association in the next episode. Remember, you can always visit my YouTube address at sblack3001. Okay, actually, affordable homes and apartments is where this will be. My sblack3001 is my main YouTube address, but you can actually log on to affordable homes and apartments. Okay, you can type up forming a tenants association, but just make sure you get sblack3001 or affordable homes and apartments. Okay, and spell out everything completely. You can hit me up on Facebook at affordable homes and apartments, YouTube affordable homes and apartments, and all the videos that I show on TV will be on my YouTube address. So even if they don't show on TV, you can log on to my YouTube address and still see the video. Sometimes there's a problem with the tape. Okay, sometimes I record with the camera, and other times I do it directly through the computer. And then there's a glitch every so often. So just keep in mind that the broadcast is still going to air. It just may be a delay based on the technology that we have. Okay, now remember, when you go on a rent strike, okay, do not pay the landlord a dime. Okay, the rent strike is initiated by informing the tenants that the building is going on a rent strike. Okay, you send out a flyer, word of mouth, via the volunteers. Okay, a rent strike does not mean that you will not have to pay any rent. It just means that you will not be paying the rent to the landlord. Okay, so keep that in mind, please. Okay, each tenant, when you do pay the rent and into this tenants association, you will have to open up a bank account under the name of the tenants association, and you will need the help of a lawyer and the city. The city has lawyers working for them, so you will need the help of the city. You're not alone in this. Okay, the building now belongs to the city. Okay, so you're actually working with the city. The mayor looks good when the building is being brought up to code compliance. All the city officials, especially working in that district, now they're starting to shine because the building is getting fixed up. So yes, they're involved, and the building taxes are due, so taxes pay salaries. So you got to remember that that's why money is called currency because it's meant to flow. Okay, it's meant to flow. Okay, so now, okay, once you do open up a bank account, okay, with the help of the city and a lawyer, make sure that every tenant gets a receipt. You can get a receipt book from Office Depot or Staples. Okay, even Home Depot I think has receipt books. You can get it from your local corner store sometimes if they sell pharmaceutical goods, local pharmacy. Okay, remember keep records of everything. Keep copies of pictures. Okay, keep your receipts. It's very important that you keep your receipts. Once you form a tenants association, you start paying your rent into the association. Okay? If you cannot pay all of your rent, you might owe 6 or 7 months back rent, then you can go and get help from other sources, which we'll talk about in other. Okay? So you may be getting Section 8, so of course you've called your Section 8 worker and no rent is being paid through Section 8. And of course your portion, if there is a portion, is not being paid either. Okay? Okay, so we'll talk in depth about getting help, but today we're talking about forming a tenants association. Okay, remember, do not give the landlord a dime. Okay, no matter what he promises, don't give him anything because now you have the help of the city. Okay, so now you may want to create leases. If there hasn't been a lease created, now you're going to have to create one. Each tenant should have a lease, and the lease should be signed, okay, by the city, okay, and the head. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you're forming like a tenants association, there's also what is called a steering committee. Okay, when you go on, there's what you call a gopher, and I got to remember the other things. I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Now, what are the duties of a tenants association? Okay, strong tenant leadership needs to be developed in general meetings, and general meetings need to be held on a regular basis to keep tenants informed of what's going on in the building. If and when you contact the landlord, he or she has an interest in participating in the tenants meeting, fine, let him attend. But don't give him any rent. No matter what he tries to persuade you, okay, I'm gonna no. You've had an opportunity to fix the building. Okay, now we're organizing as a tenant group. Now we are taking control. Okay, we will pay you your rent after we go to court. Okay, you have enough money now that you have been collecting from us in the past to fix the building. Okay, so don't expect for me now to give you rent so that you're going to promise me that you're going to fix the building. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, but so when we go to court, if the city detects and say I got to pay you rent, then I'll pay you rent. But remember, you're on a rent strike now, so nobody pays no rent to nobody. But the money goes into an account. Okay, it has to be put somewhere, because if you hold on to it, you're going to spend it. I know. Okay. Now, the president of the Tenants Association should, and the vice president, actually all of the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer, all of you should take the 7A administrative course. Okay? And this way you'll all have equal knowledge on what you're doing. The president is will be the head, based on their knowledge. And preferably if you have, based on your experience, okay? I'm not, okay, I don't want to get too detailed in that. It's based on your experience. Okay, now, me as a licensed real estate broker, I would work for you. I would work with you, and I would get the apartments rented, and I would collect my fee. Okay, now, secretaries keep notes, of course, of the meetings. The treasurer keeps a record of the monies. The president and the vice president, the person in these, like I said, they should take the 7A administrative course. They're the ones to organize them. They're the ones who make decisions, but no decisions are actually enforced without all four parties being involved. Just like the bank account, when you open up the bank account, there should be 4 signatures on it. The president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer's signature. So nobody can withdraw any money unless all four signatures are on there. But deposits can be made without all four signatures. Okay, so that would help keep some kind of strength and unity within it. Okay, there can also be an assistant secretary and an assistant treasurer, which there should be because two people, two heads are always better than one. Okay, uh, there's also courses that you can take in the urban homestead program. I was living in New York City at the time. Okay, other names are found under the Municipal Building and the Department of Buildings, which is a nonprofit technical assistance organization teaching building maintenance, payroll administrative, and accounting skills. Okay, you can take these courses at a local college as a continuing education course. Okay, now the Tenants Association and Vice President should run the meetings once elected. Okay, the landlord should be contacted and run on a regular basis and let them know what's going on, especially if you haven't gone to court yet. Once you go to court and the judge actually, says, hey, we're going to appoint a 7-day administrator, that's when the landlord is then actually removed from active management of his building. Now the building belongs to the city. Okay? If the landlord cannot be found, that's fine. This is what you need to dictate and tell this to the city officials and to your lawyer. You go to legal aid, try to get a legal aid as a society. Sometimes there are organization heads that help form tenants association. But remember, you as a tenant association want to stay in control. Okay, you want to stay in control. The other organizations that are formed, there are organizations now that help you form a tenants association. They actually would go in and become the president of the tenants association and do the repairs themselves, but then you would be a bystander. No, that's not what it's all about. You as a tenant, you live there, you should have control. Even the organization will help you. They will be there to help you. However, you still will need to maintain control of the building and the responsibilities. That's what you started out doing. You may not know what you're doing. That's why you have the city to help you. Okay, so I've been talking about my book, Tenants' Rights versus Slumlords, Win in Housing Court, which is available on Lulu.com. And we'll be talking about this again next week, right here on Time Warner Public Access TV Channel 20. Wednesdays 6:30 to 7 and Saturdays from 12:30 to 9.